Good afternoon, HR girlfriends. This is Johannes Watts with Learn to Link. I want to thank Sanaa for inviting me to do this presentation of LinkedIn from a male perspective. So without further ado, I want to get started. Today, again, we're talking about HR mastery, our LinkedIn mastery for recruiters, which the target audience is basically recruiters that are out there pounding the pavement, pounding the phones, trying to get in front of decision makers of companies so that they will use your recruiting services. I want to start with first a couple of detriments to mastery, and this comes from my experience in training quite a few HR recruiters who I know are kind of dialing for dollars, telemarketing, cold calling, and also already using LinkedIn. I think as far as an industry, the recruiting industry was one of the first big users or large users of LinkedIn, obviously because you have millions of professional, pretty much online resumes on the platform. But again, I see a lot of recruiters fall into the same traps as many of my other clients. Number one, being afraid to engage. So we all know that you can find the HR director, the director of human resources on LinkedIn. We can find many decision makers on LinkedIn, but you've got to engage them. So it's got to go beyond just looking at profiles all day. Information overload and analysis paralysis. So LinkedIn can have a lot of information. Again, I see because there's sometimes a fear to engage that decision maker. Looking at their profile all day, we go back, we look at a website, and we have to go back and look at their profile again. We study up some more. We look at the Washington Business Journal. We look at this. We look at that. And so what I found is that once you found that decision maker or once you found that target company, it really only takes a couple of steps before you have enough information to engage that decision maker or pursue that opportunity. So don't overload yourself with all of LinkedIn's information, or if you're already overloaded with information, don't expect to come into LinkedIn, be more overloaded with information, and then it happens there. Number three is going to be not being consistent. So this goes with whatever tool you're using, LinkedIn, Salesforce, your sales activity itself. If you're going to use LinkedIn as a tool, then you've got to log in more than once every 3 months and just look at a decision maker's profile. Make a commitment to use it once a day for a certain time period every day, a couple times a week while you're prospecting. You've got to be consistent with LinkedIn if it's going to be a tool that gets you results. No defined strategy. This is huge. Goes to the wandering effect. A lot of my clients, they've been on LinkedIn for years. They log in a couple of times a week. They wander around. They connect to people who really are not going to have any benefit to their network at the end of the day. So you've kind of got to have a strategy, a well-defined strategy for yourself, for your company, on why you're using LinkedIn and how you're going to use it and who you really need to be targeting every day so that you can go onto LinkedIn, utilize it efficiently, get off and get on with the rest of your day. To me, that's what it's about. Another thing is, the last thing I'll say, number 5, too many blogs, too many books, too many articles, too many webinars, not enough taking action. So, this is another webinar. Obviously, we want you to get the value from it. But, again, there's millions of, tons of blogs on LinkedIn, tons of books. You've seen so many articles. And I give you a great point. How many articles and blogs have you seen about the importance of personalizing your messages in LinkedIn? Now, ask me, out of the 20 people that want to connect to me every day, how many people have personalized their messages? Almost none. So again, it's not reading the next blog, it's not reading the next free article on LinkedIn, not necessarily even the next webinar. You've got to take what you've learned already, you've got to start using it, and again, that goes for mostly everything that you do. So first is going to be profile mastery. These are slices of the pie, and I like to call LinkedIn a pie. These are slices of the LinkedIn pie that you've got to master in order for LinkedIn to really become effective. So first and foremost is one of the most foundational parts of LinkedIn is your profile. So let's talk about the professional photo. And to some of you, just like Sanaa, some of you this may be kind of a no-duh, but again, as I look and kind of view the members of LinkedIn as I'm in it every day, I still see a lot of people with the photo is not professional. You can, it's the Facebook photo. It's the photo where the significant other's arm is still around the shoulder, and you've just kind of cropped it, and you can kind of still see. I saw one lady where her head was kind of leaning on her significant other's shoulder, and you could kind of tell by the way the picture was cropped. So first and foremost, for those of you who don't have that ultra professional photo, you need to go and get one. It's been too long. You've been on LinkedIn for a couple of years. You can probably find a buddy that does photography, pay him $100. Have them take a professional photo of you, because here's the importance. In this day and age where social media rules, LinkedIn may be the first place that a decision maker meets you, right? It used to be the handshake. It used to be at that networking event. But for many people, if I get a name, if somebody says Sanaa Rasul, then I'm going right on LinkedIn. I'm looking you up, and that's where I first encountered you. You could be the nicest person in the world. You could be the greatest recruiter in the world. But all I have to go off of is this photo. So when I first came across Sanaa, started getting on my radar, started seeing her on LinkedIn. Obviously, she's got a nice professional photo here. She's smiling. That always helps. It's a headshot. It's not a full body shot. You got to master the professional photo. Now let's talk about the headline. This is a huge area that I spend a lot of time with my clients on, and the headline kind of goes hand in hand with the photo. I see your photo. That's professional. Now I kind of want to see something in words or in text that goes along with that professional photo, but also excites me at the same time. Kind of tickles my interest. So right off the bat, Sanaa's letting you know that she's the president and founder of HR Girlfriends LLC. Obviously, I know that's a group or something geared towards women. And then she explains a social and professional organization for women, and then has her website link right there. So this is a great headline. It's really a value statement that tells me right off the bat, this is for women. Right, and obviously with HR Girlfriends, we know that has something to do with human resources. So the headline doesn't have to say everything, but it's got to kind of say enough to pique my interest and let me know, hey, you've got a business, or you've got an organization, you've got a product, you've got a service that's geared towards me, not just president, founder of HR Girlfriends. What is that? Not just PMP, blah blah blah, or recruiter at so and so company. You're a recruiter, and there are millions of other recruiters on LinkedIn. How are you going to craft a headline that kind of separates you from the crowd, and again, as a decision maker, arouses my interest? So you should be crafting a headline that's a value statement that's geared towards your target decision maker. Okay,
Johanna,
very
I have
important.
a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, yeah, so I'm curious to know, are the words in your header or your signature tagline, are those searchable in LinkedIn, the words?
Yes, those are searchable, and that's a great question. Your headline is one of the key areas where you want to have keywords that people would be searching for. So obviously you have HR, you have professional organization, you have for women. So those are some keywords. You obviously also need to have some keywords in your summary section, and also in the titles in your experience section, which are further down. But those are basically the areas where you want to be keyword rich. Your headline, your summary section, and your in your title in the experience section. So excellent question. With that said, let's go to the third part of the profile that you really need to take some time on. This is your summary section. And I love the way that you start off here. As the president and founder of HR Girlfriends LLC, I am passionate about the evolution of the female HR practitioner. I mean, just that right there kind of sets the tone for your passion, what your goal for the organization is, what you're trying to help your audience with. I strive to create authentic connection with the communities I'm privileged to be a part of, so that I may be the catalyst for change beyond my individual reach. Again, just with that second sentence, lets people know that you're about helping others, that you're being authentic, that's about connections and building relationships, building that community, and that you understand that it's a privilege to be a part of, this community of great professionals. So let's flip this back to the recruiter. A lot of times I see profiles, summary sections that still look like people are searching for jobs. It talks about them, you know, I've been in recruiting for 5 years. I'm a such and such type of professional. These are my skills. You know, I've been a top 100 recruiter, meeting all my quotas for the last 3 years. Why does that target decision maker care if you've been 120% to your recruiting quota over the last 5 years? The company or that decision maker that you're pursuing cares about how you can help them with their biggest challenges, putting butts in seats, so to speak. You know, finding that executive person. You know, being properly staffed for that project. So again, instead of talking about you, instead of your summary being you-centric, it needs to be prospect-centric. Your entire profile needs to be built around your target decision maker. You have to imagine them looking at your profile, reading it, looking at your photo, looking at your headline, looking at your summary section, looking at your recommendations, and saying, you know, this is a person who I'd want to deal with. This is an organization that looks like they can help me with my biggest problems and biggest challenges. Once again, your entire profile should be built around gaining interest from that target decision maker. So now, any questions on profile mastery?
No, not at this time.
All right. So let me move on to network mastery, and this is something where all of us really have to take a step back, because LinkedIn is a lot of things, right? A lot of people say it's a sales tool, which it is, but LinkedIn is basically composed of two things: information and your network, right? The information is on the companies, on those decision makers, and basically you're leveraging your network to help you get from point A to point B. I have a great little quick story. I was trying to work with an organization called General Assembly, which is a really hot startup on both the East and the West Coast. They have an office here in D.C. I've been pursuing them for maybe half a year. I ran into a couple of stalls, actually reconnected with somebody in my network. And when I say reconnected, circled back around to somebody in my network who I was already connected to maybe about 2 or 3 months ago. And just so happened that this lady was working as an instructor for General Assembly here in D.C. So we quickly chatted it up, and she gave me a great piece of advice. She said, you know what, Johannes, if you want to be an instructor at General Assembly, you really need to come to one of the workshops so that you can meet the people. So this lady was having a class on about LinkedIn for jobs. So I paid my $30, right, paid my dues, attended the class, and sure enough, I met a couple of the key people there. Met the guy that's in charge of hiring the instructors. We were already connected on LinkedIn, so we hit it off, chatted for about 30, 40 minutes. I've already submitted my slides to start doing a presentation over there. It's pretty easy. But the moral of that story is, you know, it was somebody in my network who gave me a key piece of information to really move that opportunity forward. I've been pursuing these people through LinkedIn, through email, and phone calls, and people that call me back. And one great piece of advice basically was the key to opening up that opportunity. So network mastery is something that you really need to be keen on. We all have a network, and hopefully we're not just on LinkedIn collecting connections, right? You can't let those people sit there. Your network they're valuable assets that when you take care of them, they take care of you. So here's a couple of places that you need to kind of take some time and pay attention to. Number one is going to be the homepage. The homepage is probably one of the best places to spot opportunities and movement within your network. It has people who are switching jobs. It has, you know, folks who are getting promoted, people who just started businesses, you know, things like that. People updating contact information. So you need to understand what an opportunity looks like. When I say opportunity, what I really mean is an opportunity to engage somebody. If I see an update on LinkedIn's homepage that said, you know, congratulate Sanaa for, you know, 5 years of running HR Girlfriends, that's an opportunity to reach back out to Sanaa, touch base, get her on the phone, chat it up, and then maybe there's an opportunity that comes back. So many people ignore those type of pieces of information, those updates. They just kind of scroll and scroll and scroll. You may be looking for a decision maker, but you don't necessarily understand that the other updates that you're skipping are probably the bits and pieces of information that you need to reach out to people. So the second type would be relationships, and these would be profile updates. Again, when somebody is getting a new job, or when somebody gets a new job, they usually go right to LinkedIn and update their profile. And that's one key piece of information that I like about LinkedIn as opposed to other sources, is that LinkedIn information tends to be real time. Some people may take a month to update their profile after a new job, and they may take a couple of weeks after getting settled in, but it's pretty much real-time information. It's not outdated, Info USA or Hoover's. It's like 3 years old. It's real-time information. So profile updates are a particular type of update, or relationships are a particular type of update that you need to pay attention to. Also, again, LinkedIn will tell you who's just connected to who, that type of thing. So pay attention to those. And again, LinkedIn really comes into play. It's the intersection of information and relationships. So could be somebody that's working at a company that you're targeting. They just started working. It's like, ooh, Sanaa just started working at General Assembly. I've been trying to get in with them. Let me reach out to Sanaa and maybe get some information about who the decision maker is, how they operate, what type of folks that they're looking for. So each one of us can do that, but that really depends on your ability to monitor the updates on the homepage, and then not being afraid to engage and reach out to people in the right way so that they can give us the information that we need. Our network is really our biggest asset, and LinkedIn is just a platform that helps us bring the pieces from our network together so we know who to reach out to, who can give us that information, and who can help move our opportunities forward. So now, any questions on network mastery?
No, I just know that I'd love to ask you what you do in terms of mastering your network, and when it relates to getting referral connections, request, or request for testimonials or recommendations. How do you handle that as you master your network?
Yeah, that's a great question. Everything to me is really based on relationships, business, and things that we ask for. So let's say, for example, I need a recommendation. Now, my strategy for recommendations are, number one, get them while they're hot. We all know what it's like to have done some great work for a client or work with somebody, and then we just kind of let like 6 months go by, a year go by, and it's like, oh man, I should have asked Sanaa for that recommendation 6 months ago when I did that webinar with her. And then it's kind of like, then you feel funny about reaching out. You don't want to bother the person. It's kind of like an afterthought. So always, if you haven't gotten a lot of recommendations to this point, going forward, get them while they're hot. So go for the low-hanging fruit, people that you just work with, people that you have good relationships with, clients that you've had for a long time. Go for those first. If that makes sense. Again, based on relationship, who will give you a glowing recommendation, and you probably know, who may be reluctant to give you a recommendation based on your relationship. Does that answer your question, Sanaa?
It does, actually.
All right. And also, as relating to the recommendations, I would also say that's a huge part of your credibility. I am going to go back to profile mastery. Obviously, recommendations are a key piece of information that are displayed on your and my profile. So when I look at a profile and I see, the last recommendation that you got was in 1985, I'm kind of like, what have you been up to for the last 20 years? So make sure that you do keep those recommendations current and relevant. And by relevant, I do mean that, we all may need a couple of recommendations that speak to our character reference. So, somebody that says, Sanaa's a great lady, she's really cool, she's been my best, I've known her for 20 years. You need a couple of those, but you really need more recommendations that say, Sanaa came over here and delivered a knockout presentation, or, me being a part of HR Girlfriends for the last, 3 or 4 years has really helped me develop my career and give me insight and yada, yada, yada. So the recommendations really need to be current and need to be relevant and speak to the results that you've gotten your clients or your customers, or what it's like, with your peers working with you. All right, so let me get to number 3, which would be credibility mastery. And I kind of spoke a little bit ahead, but pretty much just what I was speaking on. Giving those recommendations is so critical. I can't tell you why. And you guys are in human resources, so as far as job candidates and applying for jobs yourselves, I mean, you can go up and have the greatest interview in the world, but guess what? That employer still wants us to receive 3 recommendations or wants 3 references. So we all know, especially in the HR industry, we all know the importance of references, credibility, right? So to me, getting current and relevant recommendations, basically you're making that decision maker's job a lot easier for them. You're making it very easy for them to assess whether you're the right recruiting company that can help them with their challenges. So let me go to a couple that I found on Sanaa's, or this is one that I found on Sanaa's profile. It was relevant. This is Sheila Thomas. So again, it's a recommendation from somebody in her target audience. This is a director of human resources and compliance consultant. So that's pretty much her audience. So if you're an HR recruiter, this is like, or you're in the HR field, then seeing this kind of is almost like speaking for you. So Sanaa Rasul, president of HR Girlfriends LLC, is the ultimate professional who also happens to be an incredibly enthusiastic, engaging leader. So if you're thinking about joining the HR Girlfriends community, or you're wondering about Sanaa herself, then to me, in one sentence, this pretty much says a lot about her leadership. She's engaging, she's professional, and she's a recognized leader, obviously. So these are the type of recommendations these are exactly the type of recommendations Sanaa should be having on her profile. So I want you guys to think about, the type of recommendations you would want on your profile. Ones, maybe from an HR director or a recruiter saying, you help them staff up on time for one of their largest projects, or that you were personally responsible for helping make a certain project a success. Something like that. You really want those recommendations to speak to your results. I'll read you a great one that I got from actually a human resources business partner. Again, as I do a lot of client trainings and do a lot of webinars, I always try to find stuff that's relevant based on my target audience. So what better recommendation to display than one from a person who's in your industry that's on my profile. So you can see Amy Gulati. She's a human resources business partner for a HR staffing company and consulting company here in the DC Metro. If you choose to hire Johannes, not only do you get an expert, but you also get a partner who is committed to understanding your needs, helping you achieve your goals. I especially appreciate his willingness to tailor training to my industry. He took the time to understand what I do, then focused our time training on what I needed to know in order to get ahead. So there's more there, but I think this was enough for you to see how powerful those recommendations are. And again, that decision maker is combing your profile, not just looking at your photo, not just looking at a catchy headline, not just looking at a well-crafted summary section to get a better understanding of who you are, but I guarantee you they're going to be scrolling down and looking to see what kind of recommendations you have. I've had a couple of people in my network that I've gotten on the phone with that said, I wouldn't even be here if I didn't see those recommendations on your profile. And a couple of those recommendations that you got were from people who I know, and I know that they're very hard on people. I know that they're very picky. So the recommendations really add to your credibility. You need to spend some time on this. I won't lie to you. It does take a little bit of time asking for those recommendations. It's well worth your time, well worth the investment. But this is something that I see a lot of people kind of maybe falling asleep on. They signed up for LinkedIn. They wanted to beef up their profile. They got a couple of these recommendations 3 or 4 years ago, but they haven't kept up with it. So now, any questions on credibility mastery?
No, but I'm adding to my to-do list to go get more recommendations. Look, number 3, current, is what I'm shooting for.
Right. Right. I say current, I kind of had to think about this, and that's kind of why I highlighted the one at the bottom. I mean, it's already February. Gosh, it's already February. It's already February 2015, and you can see that this was one that I got back in August.
Right.
So, it's still relevant. I would say anything from 6 months to 12 months could still be relevant, but again, as time goes by, you need to keep these updated. Again, if I see a recommendation that was like a month ago, I know you're still in the mix. I know you're still doing great stuff. Past 12 months ago, and then they're kind of 50-50, and that's going to lend to your credibility. And you also have to think about your competition. If I go to somebody else, if I go to competitors' profile, and they've got more recommendations, and they're more current, and they're just saying the most greatest things, you might be better than that person. But again, all I have to go by is what I see on LinkedIn, right? So that's why you want to keep these updated, because people are always wondering, what kind of great things have you done lately? So,
right.
All right, we're going to go on.
I do have one other question. No, Johannes, it just struck me. So I have requested recommendations from people, and same here. And sometimes we get so busy that we don't get around to it, but I know people have good intentions. Have you ever had anyone say, hey, write something for me based on our interaction, I'll review it, and if all is good, I'll bless it and send it back to you?
Yeah, that's a very good question. That question came up maybe like a couple days ago. Somebody asked the same question. I'll give you a great story. I did a joint training with a sales coach, and he did the sales portion for the team, and I did the LinkedIn portion. After the training, we both sent a recommendation request to the business owner and his operations manager. We did a follow-up training for the sales team, and this came up. People were asking about the recommendations, and the owner said, you know what, Johannes, you sent me a recommendation request, and the gentleman I was with, Thomas, you sent me a recommendation request too. He said, it took me 5 minutes to write Johannes' recommendation request because he basically asked me, or he basically told me what to write. And I think in that one I was like, hey, Mr. CEO, great training. If you wouldn't mind writing a quick recommendation, and include some of the following, that we did this, that I did this, and that I did this. So I basically just gave him a guideline, and that made it easier for him. Because the thing is, the one thing that I found out, people do want to write you, quality recommendation. I mean, it's kind of like LinkedIn. It's like reaching out to that decision maker. One big thing that I see is that people overthink it too much. And with the same thing with the recommendations, when you ask them for one, they get all jittery and they get nervous and they want to write you a really good one. So, if you can make it easy for them, again, just like the references make it easy for me to see if you're credible or not, if you just kind of give me a couple of guidelines on what you want me to write, then that makes it easier for me. Now, the other gentleman that asked for the recommendation, he was like, Thomas, he's like, I sat there for like 45 minutes trying to think about what I could write for you. Not like he didn't do a great job, but it's just that, you got to sit down and think about it. And just like when I advise people on their summary section, sometimes, we can do it during that training session because it's pretty easy. And I got some people that got to sit down and really think about it for like a week, and we can't really do it right then and there. So people do want to write you a thoughtful recommendation. One way to go about it is just give them a couple of points that they could possibly include, or another way could be to almost really outline the recommendation that you want. Say, hey, here's a sample recommendation if you want to use it. Just make sure that everything that's in that sample recommendation is something that you actually did. So if I say, hey, if you could write Johannes is the greatest LinkedIn trainer since sliced bread, well, I better make sure that I did the best freaking LinkedIn training and knock this guy's socks off, or else he's going to look at it and say, well, I'll write you a recommendation, but it ain't going to say that.
Right. No, that's actually really good advice to help them with a lead. So, yeah, lead them on with verbiage so they don't have to think. I appreciate that.
Yep, dumb it down, make it real easy for them. So. Okay, let's go to number 4, skill mastery. And this is, this is a slice of the pie. I mean, are prospects going to look at your skills and say, man, you got 99 endorsements in human resources, I want to do business with you? Not necessarily. But as I said before, they're pieces of the pie, right? It's your profile combined with your headline, combined with your summary section, combined with your recommendations, and then everything kind of needs to line up. So I think the skills is an important piece of the puzzle. Here's my quick kind of guide into what type of skills you need to have on there. So now these are actually taken from your profile. first line of skills, just to be really frank about it, just needs to be like direct skills. So these are skills that are directly related to your job. So now you're in human resources. You lead a human resources group, a networking group. So human resources is a skill that's directly related to what you do. So first line of skills should be direct skills. Second line of skills, what I call indirect skills or soft skills, should also be there as well. So the way I think about this is these are the things that make you great at what you do. So that could be I'm a great leader, I'm good at team building, I'm what's the word that I'm looking for? I'm a detail beast. I'm a stickler for the details. The word I was looking for, stickler. I'm a stickler for the details. I'm a great relationship builder. So these are all soft skills because you could be great at human resources, but you could be horrible at being a team player. So being a team player could be an underlying soft skill that makes you great at what you do. So again, second line of skills will be indirect or soft skills. Third line of skills are what I call tools. So you're good at CAD, you're good at ADP, you're some type of accounting software, maybe some type of HR software like some type of search platform, or it could be LinkedIn HR platform. Maybe that's whatever that is. Could be Microsoft Office. So these are tools that maybe you are certified to use. Maybe that that you are able to use. Could be Microsoft. You could be a beast at Microsoft Excel, and if that's relevant to your job, then put it. But the third line would be tools that you kind of use, specialized tools that you use for your job. Some people know how to use those tools. Some people don't. So if you feel like it's a bonus that you know how to do ADP payroll, because maybe the companies that you're going to work for or consult with they use ADP, and it's good for them to see that. Then again, the relevant tools are what I would put down there. So pretty simple, three types of skills. I would also say clean up old skills. Leave the transferable skills on there. So if you're a PMP, obviously if you got a project management certification, that's going to be relevant in whatever you do because that goes to managing any type of project. But if you used to be a programmer and you knew Java, and that's not relevant in the human or in the recruiting field, then I'd probably take that out. If you used to be a break dancer, then you need to take that out because I don't think a break dance is a prerequisite for being a great recruiter. So keep your skills fresh, updated, and relevant based on what your goals are. Again, something like sales, I think putting sales in there would be appropriate when you're looking for a job. But again, why does your prospect care that you're the salesiest salesperson? So again, keep those skills focused on what's important to the customer, what's important to the prospect. Pretty straightforward. Any questions on that, Sana?
No, actually, and I absolutely agree with my ratings here because I know ADP payroll with my eyes closed, but I don't want anyone to call me about it. So 2 is perfect. No, it's been great. Yeah.
Okay. So last thing is going to be your positioning, and this is something that, again, profile, yeah, we can do that. Update our skills, sure. Get a couple of references or testimonials, that's great. But positioning is really important, and this is probably the biggest area that I see recruiters struggling with. And it goes down to your strategy, honestly. Really, the question you have to ask yourself for positioning mastery is, what do I want to be known for? And just, let's go back to the skills, Sana. You want to position yourself as somebody who's known in human resources. Can consult in that area. Now, do you want to be really known for ADP? Not really, like you said, because it's probably a pain in the butt. You're going over, state and federal and all those type of taxes, and it's just not. Can you do it? Yes. Is that something you want to be doing? No. Is that something you want to be known for? No. Is that something that you want people calling you for every day, even if they pay you for it? No. So this really goes to number 5 is positioning. What do you want to be known for, right? If sure you can be the recruiter for all the industries, but what industries are you specializing in? And I'll kind of take you to my side of things. A lot of people are doing a lot of things with LinkedIn. You can be the LinkedIn for business guy. You can be the LinkedIn for, job seekers. You can be a LinkedIn for job hunters. You can be a LinkedIn resume writer. You can be a LinkedIn guy or gal for, college students. You can be, the one that does profile makeovers. You can be LinkedIn for the branding LinkedIn expert. But for me, I really kind of niched myself as being the LinkedIn expert that really consults with and trains B2B sales professionals. So recruiters, you guys are trying to get in front of other business owners, other business decision makers. Am I really the person, if you're on the recruiting side and you're reaching out to job candidates? I can do that, but that's not really my specialty. Can I help you redo your profile? Yes, I can. I do it. That's actually part of my package when I train, but it's really all for the sake of getting you in front of the decision maker, helping you with sales opportunities. So there's a million things that recruiters could be specializing in. I would say pick an area if you're really the person that's out there helping IT companies, or you're in the technology field. Doesn't mean you can't do healthcare and something else, and when somebody calls you for those things, like, sure, we can do that, but where's your sweet spot? That's where you want to position yourself to be the go-to person, and that's more of a long-term strategy. You've got to stray away from the temptation to put out the I can do ADP alerts to your network. You can't do that. You got to stay focused on your target market, your sweet spot, and putting content out there and crafting a profile that speaks to the target decision maker you want to get in front of, the target industry, the industries that you're targeting. So instead of being all over the place, it really goes to positioning yourself to be the go-to person for a certain niche, where you can become an expert, where you can be known for something. You can be the master, the jack of all trades. Sometimes the master of everything is the master of nothing. So, but for me, again, when somebody comes to me for training, I'm able to say, yeah, I did. I've trained 4 other companies like yours. I know exactly the problems, the challenges that you guys are facing, and that in itself gives me a lot of credibility. Because one of the first things people ask me is, have you ever worked with a recruiting company before? Have you ever? I'm like, yeah, I have. So I've worked with recruiting companies, specific recruiting professionals, independents. So you want to be able to speak to that target market and, again, position yourself as the go-to person. So some of the ways to do that on LinkedIn, again, these things take a little bit of extra time, but guess what? As with anything else, you put extra energy and effort into it, your ROI is going to be greater. So blogs are something that is really important. You can see here's a screenshot of a blog that I did, SWOT analysis for recruiters struggling, and actually the whole time struggling with LinkedIn. But you can see that I did that back in November. Got almost, a little over 550 reads, a lot of likes, and a couple of comments, which were from a lot of recruiters. So when you go on and see that, I've helped recruiters, I'm writing blogs that, show that I understand and have an intimate knowledge of the challenges that recruiters face, that gives me a lot more credibility. So, Sanaa, I don't know if you've written any blogs, but a powerful tool that's free that you get with LinkedIn's free platform. Some people are utilizing it, some people aren't. So take a stab at it. Maybe try 1-2 blogs a month. Just kind of get started with it. So blogs are a way to increase the awareness of who you are. Again, you could be blogging, getting awareness, and your competitor might not be blogging. So it's a way to gain an advantage. Number 2 is educate your audience. Again, I took this off of Sanaa's profile to screenshot. Welcome to our Career Center. I can't remember if this was off your LinkedIn profile, Sanaa, or if it was off your website, but obviously, you've got this Career Center, which is a resource for people in your target audience. Even if they don't buy anything from you, even if they don't subscribe to your group, this is probably something they can click on and get a couple of tips on, and maybe read other people giving advice. Maybe you've got a couple of PDF downloads or something like that. But how are you educating your audience? And again, if you download something from me, then you're probably more likely to buy something from me, because the perception is you're putting out value. If it's only, well, you can only get something if you invest in my service, well, then I'm going to go somewhere else where I can get 3 other free things before I invest in their service. And if you don't have a giving spirit, if you're not really, again, positioning yourself that you're a person that educates your target audience, maybe it could be a free webinar, it could be whatever, free workshop or something like that. That's what your competition is doing. So at the very least, you've got to find a way to educate your audience. Last thing I'm going to say is, give insight. Sharing articles is an easy way to kind of get into that. You can see down at the bottom, so now sharing an article, the keys to HR, it's how people perform, the bottom line impact. Somebody's already liked it. She's sharing that within her group. Again, her LinkedIn group is another resource where you can get insight on the industry. You, as a recruiter, who are you trying to get in front of? Is that again, HR director of an IT company? Then you should be putting things out that position you as the expert in the IT industry, and maybe if your company has some PDFs that are developed, then send those to people, put those in your profile. What kind of things can people get educated on if they go to your profile? Can they watch a video? Can they download something? Anybody who goes to my profile knows up at the top you can actually click on the link in the publication section, and you can actually get 4 free LinkedIn videos that educate you on some basics on LinkedIn. So you download those, you keep going back to my profile, you keep watching the videos. Pretty soon you're reaching out to me because you really want to see the whole thing and you're ready to get trained. So these things actually benefit you. Yes, they probably take the most time, but again, your return on investment is going to be parallels the energy and effort that you put into it, and everything is, again, something that gets you ahead of your competition, gives you an edge over your competition. I know recruiting has gotten tighter in the last couple of years. Some people even looked at LinkedIn as a recruiter, as a competitor of the recruiting industry, when it really is something that can enhance recruiters. It makes you more visible, makes you look more professional. It helps your target audience understand that you're not just somebody who takes people off the street and puts them in their seat. It's really an opportunity for you to show that you know your industry, you can give a lot of insight, you understand the unique problems, and you have a lot more value to offer than maybe what's perceived. That's the way I would look at LinkedIn as a positioning tool. Any questions on that, Sanar?
Well, yeah, I think, it's funny. I was thinking about everything you've said thus far, and I know that we've been gearing the conversation towards recruiters who typically work in maybe a sales environment. What about the recruiter who is not in sales, sits in the seat for an organization, but their job is still to locate, find, sometimes the most hard-to-find candidates, and bring them through the door?
Yeah, same thing. I mean, so now, as you know, we kind of position this webinar for the recruiters that's out there doing the sales hustle and the sales dance. But to me, it's the same thing. If you're on the other side of recruiting, reaching out to prospective job candidates, and from what I have learned from my recruiting clients is that your best candidate is the one that's currently working somewhere, right? They're the ones that are too valuable to lay off and too valuable to let go. So again, how does that recruiter position himself as a person who's got enough credibility, is an industry specialist to approach this currently employed candidate and say, I can get you to the next level. I know that you're probably being underpaid. Even if you like your job, what would be the one thing that, would maybe make you consider looking around? They may say, look, I'm getting paid well, but hey, if I can just get a job that's, within a 30-minute commute versus an hour and a half, that would improve my quality of life. Again, I like my position, I like my job, I get paid well, I enjoy it. But the one thing would be, so how do you position yourself as somebody that this job candidate is going to trust, with helping them make their next career move, right? How are you going to gain that credibility? Because just like my wife, she works at Lockheed Martin, she getting job offers every day, work in Dubai, work over here, do this. I mean, every day she getting job offers. So why would I pay attention to you? Well, you're just not another recruiter that's got another job, trying to fill a seat and get their commission. You've got to learn how to develop that relationship. And again, you've got a sales cycle, right? If it's somebody that doesn't have a job, maybe anybody that doesn't want a job wants to work with a recruiter. But the best candidates are going to be the ones who are currently in a job, and they're making the big salaries, and they're going to be a longer sales cycle. They're going to be a tougher sell. So how are you going to sell them on that you're the person, right? Not just another recruiter, because everybody on LinkedIn now is getting spammed by recruiters. Again, the positioning and all the things that I showed you, if you had a couple of testimonials on your profile that said, hey, I've been working here for 10 years and never thought I'd leave, but I met so-and-so and they helped me make a great career move. Do you have any of those on your profile? So again, these are things that you have to really take some time to work on and do them right if you want to eventually make the big dollars, lock down the big client, lock down the hard to get job candidate. You still have to sell them on something. So we're all in sales. I'm a business owner, but I'm in sales. I won't pay my mortgage unless I sell training, my training solutions to recruiters and other companies that are challenged with selling their products and services. So again, it doesn't matter if you're on the B2B side or the B2C side of recruiting. You still got to sell them something. You still got to have credibility, and you've got to position yourself as somebody that's got the credibility, that knows what they're talking about, that specializes in helping that certain type of person or decision maker in getting them from point A to point B.
That makes perfect sense. Absolutely.
All right, so it was about the 5 areas of LinkedIn mastery. So that was positioning was number 5. So success mastery, right, really means bring all those things together. Just because you go and get your profile done doesn't mean the phone's going to start ringing off the hook, and that's what I see. Yeah, I just got my profile, I got a new picture, and you kind of dusted your profile off, but there's still other pieces of the pie in terms of what succeeding with LinkedIn means that you've got to really master. And that's why my philosophy is it's not just about prospecting. Yes, there's a prospecting element, there's a messaging element, there's a relationship building element that all kind of build off of some of the slices that I showed you. So you got to master a couple of those slices, not just, again, if you're prospecting and you're reaching this and you're able to use LinkedIn as a tool to find more decision makers efficiently, but you're reaching out and then when they look at your profile, it doesn't say the right thing, you're just another recruiter with no photo, then that element is not going to work. So it's pieces of the pie, it's different elements that work together that bring success. And again, it's leveraging your network. And leveraging your network, getting insights and information from your network is the key. So, I want to thank all the recruiters for watching this. Wish them good luck. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. Obviously, you can learn a lot from just watching me. As I said before, I have a couple of free videos that you can actually watch that help you learn a couple of basics on LinkedIn. I think a lot of people aren't up on yet. Right here, you can click on this. It'll take you, put your name and email, and over 4 days you'll get 4 short videos that kind of give some great tips. So now that's my story. That's what I'm sticking to. Any questions that you foresee that I could answer for the HR girlfriend's audience, as you only have the male perspective for a couple more minutes.
Absolutely. I have 2 questions that I wrote down. And I'd like to tell you, I know you're teasing about the male perspective, but let me tell you, I intentionally had to carve that out. I don't want anyone thinking it's all about us women. There's value in the male perspective. So my question to you is what is your feeling on LinkedIn groups?
Yeah, LinkedIn groups is something that, I'd probably, if you're a recruiter, if you're, employed, then I'd probably really leave that up to the company because, so now you run a LinkedIn group and it's another full-time job. I mean, if you think you've already got your full-time job, then you've got to learn social media. That's your new part-time job. And then running a LinkedIn group is like your second part-time job. You've got to constantly be updating it with content, so now I think I've been a part of the HR girlfriend's LinkedIn group for maybe a month now, and I see every day you're pumping out content. You got to find good articles. You got to respond to the group. You got to recruit people to the LinkedIn group. So it's a full-time job running a group. You've done so. You've already started on that path. I would say that for the average salesperson or recruiter, it's probably not necessary right now. If you have the extra time, great. If your company has already created one, then just leverage what your company's already created. But so now I'm sure you can tell folks better than I can, that running that group is a full-time job.
Yes, it is. So one has to be the moderator, and you also have to find content. So I do find it to be a full-time job. I've been lucky enough to leverage that with others in my team. But when you're a one-person shop, and i.e. your own individual role, it is a bit much. But I do encourage those individuals, and I'm sure you may agree, to comment on other people's posts in LinkedIn groups. It's a great way to meet new people in your industry. or in other industries as a recruiter so that you can tap into them for leads, for potentially a job candidate relationship. So I know that posting has been really helpful for many in the HR Girlfriends group.
Yeah, there are two sides of the group. So it's starting and maintaining a group and cultivating the group, which I spoke to. As far as using groups as a prospecting tool, yeah, it's a strategy that I see a lot of people haven't mastered. I mean, you can join up to 50 LinkedIn groups, but you shouldn't. I would start with maybe 4 or 5. And just like the skills, there's different types of groups, right? There's first level of groups is going to be, groups that you're in for best practice, right? So they're going to be groups that you're in, like, you could maybe look at HR Girlfriends where you're going to be in there with some of your competitors, other HR folks in the industry. You're getting great content about, best practice and things like that. Could be like the SHRM group, things like that. Could be, the B2B recruiters LinkedIn group. You're basically going to be in there with your competitors. So just make note of that. So why should you be in 10 groups where your competitors are going to be? The groups you should really be in and focus on are maybe 5 to 10 groups where you're going to find your target audience. So this is going to be a group where there's going to be HR directors, CEOs with, in target industries that you're targeting and things like that. And once you found those groups, which is the first step, the second step is really how to work the group. Again, it's kind of like a networking group. It's exactly the same as a networking group. If you go in there with your business card and you're just frisbeeing out your business card and you want a bunch of referrals and you want stuff and you want to do business, and you're all in people's face about it, then nobody in the business group is going to in the networking group is going to take you seriously. Same thing with the LinkedIn group. If all you're doing is posting your jobs and all this other stuff, and it's not going to work. You really have to take an HR girlfriend mentality, I would say, and be a part of the community before you can expect any sales. You have to get to know the key players. It's not, as you well know, you could have 10,000 people in a LinkedIn group. You might monitor a group for 2 weeks and see the same 10 people posting every day. So everybody that's in the group is not active. There are people who are more active. There are people who are really in that group to learn. So you kind of have to study the group, study the culture, study the players. As Sanaa said, you need to learn how to engage, post your own articles, like other people's articles, take time to comment, get on people's radars, and then it still comes down to where the rubber hits the road, is learning how to approach people to discuss an opportunity. And that's, again, I'm big on training on, I have a training module called Messages That Get Meetings. Probably the biggest single area, other than other areas I just showed you where people are not mastering LinkedIn. Where the rubber hits the road is, when you're sending emails to that decision maker, or after you've connected and you want to send them a direct message, people just completely do not know how to engage folks and craft messages and use specific wording so that they get a response from that decision maker that says, hey, yeah, give me a call next week at 2 o'clock to discuss this opportunity. People send horrible messages. They connect on Monday. They want to sell on Tuesday. And there's a way to do that on LinkedIn. Most people aren't teaching it. I'm huge on teaching, again, how to craft messages that make you look like you're a genuine relationship builder, that you genuinely want to help people, not that I just found you on LinkedIn on Monday and, I want to sell you something on Tuesday. That's probably a big area where people are messing up on LinkedIn when they're reaching out to decision makers. And, again, I call that where the rubber hits the road.
Absolutely. Wow, that was great insight. I asked one question and I got tons of content, answers, so that's great.
That's that male perspective.
We like that. We like that. Usually we're the women are the ones talking a lot and giving too much detail, but that was actually really insightful because I get a lot of those questions and I can only speak from my journey, but I think it's awesome for someone who's teaching others how to do it, for you to say, okay, this is what you know to be true and what's worked for you and your clients. So, Johannes, I just want to thank you so much for your time today. I am confident that the girlfriends will be hitting you up on LinkedIn. Hopefully they'll be executing some of your tips, and don't be too hard on them if they don't.
Everybody's, you got your job, and I do get a lot of people like that, and I'll say, I don't want you to look at my profile. I don't want to connect with you right now. My profile looks horrible. Look, I'm not here to judge. I was that person once before. So, I'm pretty sure they can outdo me on HR stuff any day. So, I got the leg up on LinkedIn. They got the leg up on recruiting. So we're even.
We'll take it. We'll take it. Well, thank you, Johannes, and we look forward to having you back with us.
All right, Sanaa. Thanks a lot.
Take care.